Hi guys, it's me, Chaz HD, and welcome to tonight's qualifying preview for qualifying at this weekend's 2022 Dutch Grand Prix. Hope you're all doing well, and yeah, we've had, of course, Friday practice today at what has been a nice day at Zandvoort. Of course, it's quite close to the beach in that part of Holland, and yeah, thankfully for the fans, mostly obviously Max Verstappen fans, that have attended the practice session today and will be attending the Grand Prix weekend. It's looking nice weather-wise, as you can see on your screen here. But yeah, we've had Friday practice today, and it's been an interesting day of practice. It's been quite a bit different looking in terms of the pace between certain teams than I was expecting. So yeah, looking interesting when it comes to that, and obviously we'll get into that in this stream. Just want to say quickly, hopefully you're all doing well again. And no matter what time it is in your part of the world, no matter where you're from, hopefully you're all having the best day possible you can be having, given whatever circumstances you are going through. But what we're going to get into in tonight's stream is obviously going through all the teams, previewing how I think they're going to do, looking at all the teams and just how they were pace-wise in Friday practice. Most importantly, of course, practice 2. Sorry. And then also, we're going to get into data from FP2, looking at the sector times from practice 2 and looking at the ideal laps of all the certain cars from practice 2 and just look at what the pace is looking like so far this weekend. We'll get into looking at an onboard lap of the track just to get into what it takes to have a good lap at Zandvoort, and we'll get into a couple of news topics because there has been a couple interesting bits of news today. One big bit of news revolving around Oscar Piastri. You may have already heard that news, but I will get into it in case you haven't. And we're going to get into a bit of drama between an F1 driver, current F1 driver obviously, and I think a current Formula E driver. So yeah, make sure to stick around for that as well. But yeah, that's what we're going to be doing in tonight's stream. But let's start off by looking at the practice results. And before I do that, I just need to quickly get up practice 2 results on my screen. You won't be able to see it, unfortunately, because I wasn't able to find on Twitter the actual graphic showing the final results of practice 2. So let me just get up on my screen the practice 2 results. And then I will be able to show the practice 1 results on screen, so don't worry about that. But hold on a minute. Let me just... Oh, for some reason it's not showing. For some reason, F1 have not posted the official classification of practice 2. I don't know why. Let me just have another look quick at the F1 website, see if I can find it. I'll have to probably look on the FIA website, but I'll quickly show the practice 1 results whilst I look. So this is what it was in practice 1, and surprisingly, Mercedes ended up first and second. Now, this is not truly indicative of what we're going to see this weekend, probably, but Mercedes, and we saw this in practice 2 as well, they are definitely much quicker here because of the reasons that I laid out in my weekend preview, which, by the way, make sure to go check that out. I uploaded that, or went live with that yesterday, and there's a link below to that in the description. I did point out that here at Zandvoort, we're going to have hotter conditions, the track layout suits them better, and it's a shorter lap, meaning that the gaps will be closer, so it should suit them a lot better than Spa, and by the looks of it, it has so far. Yeah, Mercedes 1 and 2 in practice 1. We haven't had a 1-2 from Mercedes in a practice session in a while, it feels like. Maybe we did at the start of the season, but if we haven't, then it's probably been sometime at the end of 2021. Last time we had a practice session, which was a 1-2 for the Mercedes team. And then the rest of the top 10, it was Carlos Sainz in 3rd, Lando Norris 4th, Daniel Ricciardo 5th, Charles Leclerc 6th, Sergio Perez 7th, Fernando Alonso 8th, Esteban Ocon 9th, and Alexander Albon in P10. And then the rest of the order, Mick Schumacher, Lance Stroll, Kevin Magnussen, Pierre Gasly, Sebastian Vettel, Zhou Guanyu, Yuki Tsunoda, Valtteri Bottas, Max Verstappen in 19th, and Nicholas Latifi in P20. Now, you may have noticed by the thumbnail of this stream, or video, whatever you want to call it, that Max Verstappen was walking away from a broken down Red Bull. That is why he ended up in 19th. His gearbox packed up, and he was out of the session, so that probably did affect him also in, it did affect him in practice too, which we'll get onto the results of that in just a moment. Let me just get it up on screen quick, because I have had, unfortunately, to go to the actual FIA website to get it up. So here we go. So this is the classification of second practice. It was Charles Leclerc P1 from Carlos Sainz in second. Only 0.004 of a second separating the two Ferraris. Looking good there for the Ferrari team. Lewis Hamilton was third. And then Lando Norris in fourth. Looking very quick over a single lap is Lando. So watch out for him tomorrow. George Russell fifth. Stroll in sixth. We know, though, Aston Martin will drop back a lot tomorrow, because they always do on a Saturday. Fernando Alonso 7th, Max Verstappen 8th, and 0.7 of a second pretty much off the pace of Charles Leclerc. So yeah, bit of a messy day today for Red Bull and for Verstappen, but I think definitely we'll see a big improvement from him and Red Bull tomorrow. Ocon 9th and Ricciardo 10th. Ricciardo, I think, had an oil leak at the end of practice too, so he couldn't actually do any more running towards the end of the session. And then the rest of the field, it was Tsunoda, Perez, Schumacher, Vettel, Zhou, Gasly, Albon, Bottas, Magnussen, and Latifi. So that is your final classification for practice 2. And I'll cut back to this now. And yeah, so an interesting day of practice. Not quite in terms of a final finishing order or a classification, not quite what we were expecting coming into this weekend's Grand Prix. But I think we'll just get straight into the top teams. And of course, we'll start with Red Bull Racing. And yeah, not a good day today. Probably one of their worst days of Friday practice so far this season, which is quite interesting that it's happened, the week after probably the most dominant weekend of their season, not just of their season, probably the most dominant weekend they've had in about 10 years or so. So yeah, it's not been a good day for Red Bull. Sergio Perez, he's a man on screen, so I'll quickly get into him. Not been quick at all today, but Perez, we have seen this in the last few races, that on a Friday doesn't tend to be that quick. Also, I found an interesting bit of news on racefans.net. Let me just try and find it quickly. That Verstappen and Perez are using, or to use, different floor designs for the next few events. And Sergio Perez confirmed that. And it says, while Max Verstappen continues to use the team's current floor design, Red Bull reverted to an older specification floor on Perez's car. So I think they're just testing out different type of floor specifications there. So that's probably as well kind of explaining why Sergio Perez's pace is not great. But the Red Bull of Max Verstappen, obviously not a great day, having the gearbox problem in practice 1. And then in practice 2, thankfully no reliability problems, but the car didn't look that great, I've got to say, out on track. Not as good as the Ferrari, especially in the middle sector. Just didn't look as good as the Ferrari did the Red Bull. In the first sector, the Red Bull, in the corners in the first sector, didn't look too bad. But I will get into in a moment why I think Red Bull are, as we have seen this season, and as I have said the last few races, Red Bull do tend to sandbag on a Friday. They do tend to hold back on what their true pace is on a Friday. A lot more compared to Ferrari and seemingly Mercedes as well. So, yeah, Red Bull, there is more to come from them. And yeah, the car, in terms of grip around the track, not looking great, but I'm sure they can make improvements on that. It doesn't look to be anything massively wrong with the Red Bull car from what I saw in practice 2. And yeah, even though they were quite a bit off with Max Verstappen in practice 2, 0.7 of a second off Charles Leclerc, I don't think that's going to be anywhere near quite the gap in qualifying. I think coming out of practice, Ferrari probably do have the quickest car over a single lap this weekend by the looks of it. Red Bull, like I said, they will be a lot quicker tomorrow, but I don't think they'll be able to close quite that gap and a bit more to be on pole position tomorrow. So I do think Ferrari are the favourites of pole from what I have seen so far, which is kind of what I expected, I guess you could say, coming into this Grand Prix weekend. I expected Ferrari to be very quick here, and certainly in qualifying. So as long as really Max Verstappen qualifies at least in second place, then that'll be good enough, really, because I still think he could have a very good chance then at winning his home Grand Prix for the second year in a row. But if you're a Red Bull fan, do not be too concerned, because I don't think it's, what's happened today is really anything to panic about, because we know Red Bull are a lot quicker on a Saturday than they are on a Friday. But let's get some stats regarding Red Bull when it comes to qualifying. So Max Verstappen did take pole position at last year's Dutch Grand Prix, barely from Lewis Hamilton, who qualified second that day. Verstappen, though, despite leading by almost 100 points in the championship, he has only started this season on pole position 3 times out of 14 races. Just shows you how great Red Bull have been in the races compared to Ferrari. And Red Bull have taken 35% of pole positions in 2022. That includes the pole positions of Max at Imola and Canada, and Austria as well, but also Spa, where he did qualify in first place, also plus Perez's pole position at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, which was at the end of March, which was a long time ago. But yeah, with Red Bull, not looking great at the minute, but it will be a lot better tomorrow, and I still think they'll be very close in contention with Ferrari for pole position. And now we'll move on to the Scuderia Ferrari team, and yeah, looking good so far. Their car looks very good around the track. Got to say, this picture of the Ferrari that we're looking at here, even though they're an absolute terrible team, a clown show, really, as we've explained multiple times this season, this car in the sunlight around this track looks so beautiful, as you can see here on screen. But anyway, enough of the porn on screen, I guess you could say. And let's get into just how they're looking. But yeah, Ferrari looking very quick. As quick, really, as you would have expected them to be coming into this week. And I know at Spa, obviously they were quite a bit slower than not just expected, but even after qualifying, where Max was quite a bit quicker than, Ferrari, and Red Bull were quite a bit quicker than Ferrari in qualifying. I don't think they quite expected the pace difference to be, well over a second a lap in the race. But yeah, this weekend looking a lot better for the Ferrari team, and I would say for sure they are pole position favourites for tomorrow. Mercedes, obviously, we'll get into them in a second. They don't look too far off Mercedes compared to Ferrari from what we've seen so far. But I don't think ultimately Mercedes will be able to quite match the pace of Ferrari. So, yeah, I think Ferrari are the favourites of pole position. And the reason their car is working so well here is because in the middle sector, and I'd probably say the beginning of the final sector, you've got some medium speed and slow speed corners that the Ferrari just handles so well in compared to the Red Bull and the Mercedes as well. And not just handles well in, but the Ferrari has such good acceleration out of slower corners. And that's why the Ferrari is in those corners so good compared to the rest of the field. So Ferrari are the favourites for pole position. And in terms of Ferrari versus Red Bull, I am going to predict now that I think Charles Leclerc will get pole position tomorrow at Zandvoort. And to be honest, from a neutral point of view, which is the point of view I look at things at when it comes to Formula 1, I think that would be the best thing for the race on Sunday, because I think if Verstappen was on pole, it would be pretty much like last year, a foregone conclusion, pretty much, in terms of who is going to win the race. But I think if Leclerc's on pole, because we know Ferrari this season haven't been massively quicker than Red Bull on race day. There has been the odd race here or there, like in Austria, where they were a lot quicker. Australia, they were a lot quicker. And I think there was another race in there where they were a lot quicker in terms of their race pace. I think Canada, you could probably say as well. But most of the season, Red Bull have had better race pace compared to the Ferrari team. So it would be more exciting, really, if Ferrari got pole position. And maybe even if Mercedes got pole position, that would really throw things up for race day at Zandvoort. But yeah, Ferrari looks as though they've got the best car for qualifying. We'll see what they'll have for the race, obviously, on Sunday, and I'll obviously get more so into the data from the long runs in FP2. I'll get more so into that on Sunday in previewing the Grand Prix itself. But if you're a Ferrari fan, looking a lot better than Spa, that is for sure, and that is good to see. And yeah, I think Leclerc will get pole. And then it'll probably be Verstappen in second and Carlos Sainz third. I think that's what I'm going to go for the top three. And then probably the two Mercedes after that in fourth and fifth. But let's get into some stats regarding Ferrari in qualifying. So Charles Leclerc, he qualified fifth at last year's Dutch Grand Prix. That he was the highest placed Ferrari driver at the Grand Prix last year. His last pole position was at the French Grand Prix, which honestly feels quite a bit ago. I know it was only, 6 weeks ago? But that already feels quite a long time ago, considering what's happened since. Ferrari, though, have taken 57% of pole positions in 2022. So, despite being so horrifically poor on a Sunday, on a Saturday, they have been the best team in Formula 1 in 2022. So, yeah, the favourites for pole, Ferrari, in my opinion. And we'll finally now go on to Mercedes before we get into the data from practice 2 in terms of sector time data and who is looking for the ideal lap, who is looking quick compared to other teams. So let's get on now. Before we get on to that, let's get on to the Silver Arrows. Mercedes, and Mercedes had a very good day today. Obviously 1-2 they were in practice 1, and then in practice 2 they were, I think, was it 3rd and 5th, I think it was, for Mercedes, and Lewis Hamilton was less than a tenth of a second away from Charles Leclerc. So if these temperatures keep up, which is definitely helping Mercedes with their tyre temperature issue, and they don't lose that much on Saturday once things, engine-wise, are properly turned up with all the top teams, Mercedes could absolutely get pole position tomorrow. I mean, I think race win on Sunday is probably more likely than pole position tomorrow, because I still think Ferrari ultimately have the best car for qualifying. But Mercedes are definitely close enough to get either, say, a top 3 at least, or even pole position. They're definitely, from what I've seen at the moment, they are within the margin you need to be competitive for pole position. And that, of course, is very good news. Not just for the Mercedes fans, the fans of the two drivers and the two drivers themselves, but I think for us, the neutral, because, having 3 different teams fighting for pole position is something we haven't had really at all this season. We had it obviously in Hungary, and that was a incredibly exciting qualifying session in Budapest. We kind of had it at Silverstone for a bit, but not really for Q3. And then, yeah, for the rest of the season, it's been really just Ferrari versus Red Bull when it comes to who is going to get pole position. So it would be great if Mercedes were, say, only 2-3 tenths of a second off at most in, raw qualifying terms compared to, say, Ferrari, who I think, again, are the fastest team over a single lap. So, looking good. Looking very exciting for tomorrow. It's definitely going to be a lot more exciting tomorrow, the qualifying session, than what we saw in or at Spa, where, of course, a lot of the grid had penalties, and the result of qualifying didn't really matter as much as it would have done, obviously, at other weekends because of the amount of penalties there were. So yeah, for Mercedes, looking very good, and this track layout really suiting their car a lot more than Spa, which is not really that big of a surprise because obviously they are still lacking, straight line speed, and at Spa, with the cooler conditions that we really always get at Spa compared to like almost every track on the calendar, obviously that's not going to help for Mercedes, but they are coping, thankfully, a lot better this weekend. I just want to quickly say with Mercedes, because I know it was kind of a talking point with Lewis Hamilton in last night's preview, that Hamilton might have to take on a new power unit because his power unit is probably damaged from the Alonso incident at Spa. Lewis Hamilton revealed that Mercedes have taken the engine that he was using during the Belgian Grand Prix out and are making repairs to it this week while a different unit goes into his car for the Dutch Grand Prix. The engine he used at Spa was a new one fitted for that weekend. So, yeah, hopefully that power unit should be fine. And I think the aim for Mercedes is that it will return for the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. But looking good, very good for the Mercedes team at Zandvoort. But before we get into McLaren and the news about them today and the driver they've signed, and also looking at how quick they are this weekend, let's get into the data from Practice 2. Because it is quite interesting to look at from what we've seen in Practice 2 here in Holland. So, by the way, credit to Lights Out F1 blog. You can see the Twitter out there in the top right and his website on the bottom there. So, credit to him. Make sure to go check him out. But let's get into the sectors. So, comparing, firstly, the top teams. Sector 1, Mercedes actually quicker than Ferrari by, 400? It's almost half a tenth of a second, which is pretty good for them in the first sector. If they keep that up tomorrow, they can give themselves a decent chance of really getting in that fight for, say, a third or a fourth at worst in qualifying. So Mercedes very good in that first sector, and then Ferrari still doing decently. Obviously McLaren in the first sector, incredible pace by them. And I will say that since their new upgrade that McLaren had at the French Grand Prix, their pace in qualifying since then has been absolutely incredible. Because we've seen, even in the practice sessions over a single lap, that their pace over a single lap has just been incredible compared to what it was like before, where they were still quick, but it was nowhere near as good as this. And you can see with McLaren, quickest in Sector 1, second quickest in Sector 2, and then third quickest in Sector 3, actually quicker than Red Bull in all of the sectors. That won't obviously happen tomorrow, but very impressive there from McLaren. But let's compare quickly Ferrari and Red Bull. Let me just get into why Red Bull are sandbagging, in my opinion, because Sector 1, except for Turn 1 and Turn 3, I guess you could say, Turn 2 is a pretty fast right-hand turn, so it's not really that much of a corner compared to, obviously, Turn 1 and Turn 3. Sector 1 is really quite fast, and in terms of, who could be using less power on a Friday practice day, or in Practice 2, which, of course, normally takes place on a Friday, Sector 1 is the best sector to look at when it comes to that. Also, Sector 3 is relevant when it comes to that as well, but Sector 1 especially is a good sector to look at. And when comparing Ferrari and Red Bull, Ferrari are 0.3 of a second quicker than Red Bull in Sector 1. That will not happen tomorrow. Ferrari are not going to be 0.3 of a second quicker in Sector 1 tomorrow. That will not happen because Red Bull, we've seen so many times this season, they don't use as much power and tend to conserve what they have on a Friday compared to, you know, what they show ultimately on a Saturday. Because in Sector 2, where Ferrari are, what, 10th and a half quicker than Red Bull, that's a bit more like what the difference should be, say, in that type of sector where Red Bull don't really have the chance to clearly illustrate the lack of power that they are using in practice too. And then in Sector 3, Ferrari are 0.4 of a second quicker than Red Bull. Again, with, you know, half of Sector 3 being flat out, that is not going to be the case tomorrow. The Ferrari are not going to be 0.4 of a second quicker than Red Bull in the final sector tomorrow. That's absolutely not going to happen. So Red Bull will probably, because it says with the ideal lap on the far right there that Ferrari are almost 0.9 of a second quicker with the ideal lap. Red Bull will probably improve compared to Ferrari by 6-7 of a second. So the gap will probably come down to, I don't know, 1/10, maybe 2/10 at the absolute most, if I'm slightly incorrect with my estimations. So again, if you are a Red Bull fan, don't panic, because I don't think Red Bull are going to be this far off in qualifying tomorrow. Definitely saving on power. Also Alpine as well, compared to McLaren. Alpine definitely sandbagging a bit as well, because there's no way they should be 3.5 slower than a McLaren Sector 1, which again is the most powerful power sector here at Zandvoort. So Alpine can definitely improve their pace by quite a bit. But I would still say Ferrari ultimately are quicker than Red Bull because of the pace difference they have in Sector 2. A 10.5, and I think even though Red Bull will close the gap probably in Sector 3 and Sector 1, it won't be enough to be quite the quickest team in qualifying. So I think Ferrari do have ultimately the best car. And then comparing Ferrari and Mercedes, yeah, impressive by Mercedes to be quicker in Sector 1. The thing is, though, we have seen a few times this season that Mercedes will be very quick on a Friday. At times, not all the time, but at times will be very quick on a Friday. But then on a Saturday, they just won't have the pace ultimately to compete with Ferrari or Red Bull. So I am expecting a drop-off in pace. I don't think with what it says on the far right, the ideal lap, you know, Mercedes being almost 1.5 slower than Ferrari, I don't think Mercedes will be quite that close in qualifying. I think they'll probably be 3-4 tenths off ultimately compared to Ferrari, with Red Bull probably a 10.5 off in qualifying. So Mercedes, I still think, will be the third quickest team. And then, what do you call it? With McLaren, yeah, McLaren are not going to be as quick as this compared to the top three teams in qualifying. But I think McLaren will be the quickest midfield team in qualifying for sure. Again, Alpine, I think they've got more pace to show, but I don't think they'll be able to close the gap enough to be quicker than McLaren in qualifying. So for the top 5 teams, and I know Aston Martin on the ideal lap are the 4th quickest team it's showing as, but we know Aston Martin on a Saturday always do very poorly. The top 5 teams, I would say, going into qualifying are Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, Alpine, which is not drastically really different to what I was expecting coming into this weekend's Grand Prix, but I think that is what the top 5 is going to be tomorrow. And then after that, I mean, I guess you could say Aston Martin, the next quickest team, but again, because of how they drop off on a Saturday, it's hard to say whether they'll be able to actually be the 6th quickest team in qualifying. I think the only team that really from the bottom 4 there, you see on the far right, AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, Haas and Williams, the only team there I think that could get ahead of Aston Martin probably are AlphaTauri. So it's probably going to be, Aston Martin and AlphaTauri around 6th and 7th quickest teams, and then probably Alfa Romeo, Haas and Williams completing the rest of the field. So yeah, that's my pecking order, I guess you could say, for qualifying. And looking quite a bit different from the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa, which is nice to see. And to be honest, again, it would be, from a neutral point of view, better if Ferrari were on pole position tomorrow, because for Sunday's race, I think it gives us more of an exciting competitive Grand Prix. So we'll see if that does indeed happen. But now, let's get on to the McLaren team. And actually, hold on. Let me go back. I'll get on to McLaren in a second. Just needed to get onto one final thing with Mercedes, which was some stats regarding them. So Lewis Hamilton qualified second at last year's Dutch Grand Prix. Did a very good lap, but Max was just too quick last year at this Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton's last pole position was in Saudi Arabia in 2021. And at the moment, this streak Lewis is on without a pole position, which I think is 15 races now. This is Lewis's second longest streak without a pole position. The longest streak he's ever gone was from the 2010 Canadian Grand Prix, I think, until the 2011 Korean Grand Prix, which was a streak of about 25 races, I think, almost, or about that. So, yeah, this is the second longest streak Lewis has gone without a pole position. We'll see if Mercedes do have the pace, and Lewis, if he has the pace for pole position at Zandvoort tomorrow. But yeah, let's now get on to the McLaren team. And yeah, pace-wise, looking very good for them. Lando Norris, very, very quick today at Zandvoort. And he will be, I'm pretty confident, he will be P7 in qualifying tomorrow, because we saw there with the data that McLaren, in all of the sectors, pretty quick. And around this track, because their car has a lot of grip, but almost at times, if it makes any sense, has too much grip and too much drag on their car. That is what is really helping around this circuit for them being so quick. So yeah, Lando Norris looking very quick in the McLaren, and he will 1,000,000% be in the top 10 tomorrow. And I think, yeah, he'll be qualifying probably in P7. Hopefully Daniel Ricciardo can get into the top 10, but even though he had a decent day of practice today, he was 5th in practice 1, and then in practice 2, he was in P10. I think he had an oil leak, did Ricciardo, towards the end of practice 2, so hopefully there's no big issues there when it comes to that. But yeah, McLaren, looking at just what they have for a car this weekend, McLaren are very quick. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. McLaren are very quick this weekend. And I think if they can, with Lando Norris, get 7th, because Alpine do tend to have a better race pace normally than McLaren, because it is hard to overtake here, that if he was to qualify in 7th at the head of the midfield pack, that would be probably the best opportunity for McLaren to outscore Alpine this weekend. So it is critical that Lando Norris qualifies in 7th place, because if he out-qualify or gets out-qualified by even one of the Alpines, then I think they'll struggle to help McLaren outscore the Alpine team in the championship. And of course, they're still in a fight with them for 4th place. Alpine 20 points clear of McLaren in that fight for 4th in the Constructors' Championship. So we'll see how that goes for McLaren. But in terms of qualifying, which of course we are previewing right now, yeah, McLaren are looking good. They're looking quick, which is good to see. But before, guys, before I come to you guys in the live chat to see what you guys have to say, because obviously I've gone through the top 4 teams, and normally I would come to you guys in the chat. Before I do, I'm going to get into some news regarding McLaren and also a driver they are going to have at their team for 2023. And it is Oscar Piastri. It has been confirmed that Oscar Piastri will be racing alongside Lando Norris for McLaren in 2023. The Contract Recognition Board finally made their decision, and let's get into that decision now that confirms just how the situation from Piastri's side unfolded. And this is from, by the way, racefans.net that I found this stuff, so credit to them. It says, quote, a tribunal appointed by the CRB, Contract Recognition Board, that is, met on the, I think it cuts off there, but I think it's supposed to say Belgian Grand Prix, to discuss the two teams' claim to the driver. The tribunal, quote, issued a unanimous decision that the only contract to be recognised by the board is the contract between McLaren Racing Limited and Mr. Piastri, dated the 4th of July, 2022. Now, we'll get into that date in a moment because that is a very important date in regards to just how this situation worked out. And then it goes on to say, McLaren announced, quote, McLaren announced Piastri has joined them on a multi-year deal beginning next year following his departure from Alpine. The CRB acknowledged Piastri is, quote, entitled to drive for McLaren Racing Limited for the 2023 and 2024 seasons, meaning, obviously, that is a 2-year contract for the Australian at McLaren. Now, let's just quickly go back to this, where it says, you know, the CRB recognises that the only valid contract is the one between McLaren and Oscar Piastri, dated the 4th of July. The 3rd of July, the day before, was race day at Silverstone, the British Grand Prix. And you will remember Daniel Ricciardo that day had a very poor Grand Prix where he finished second last. I think it was 13th in that Grand Prix, or 14th. And it was a very poor weekend. So clearly McLaren decided enough was enough and they were going to sign Oscar for 2023. The thing is, though, almost... Let me just find it on Daniel Ricciardo's Twitter. Here it is. And let me get up on screen quickly. Almost 10 days later, on July 13th, Ricciardo posted this on his Twitter, saying, there have been a lot of rumours around my future in Formula 1, but I want you to hear it from me. I am committed to McLaren until the end of next year, and I'm not walking away from the sport. Appreciate it hasn't always been easy, but who wants it easy? Who wants easy? I'm working my ass off with the team to make improvements and get the car right and back to the front where it belongs. I still want this more than ever. See you in Le Castellet, Daniel. Obviously, the race after was the French Grand Prix. So, clearly, and there's no way Daniel Ricciardo would have posted that if he already knew that he was out of McLaren for next year. There's an absolutely no chance he would have posted that if he already knew. He's not that type of guy, I don't think. And also, a couple days before that, Zach Brown talked to the media about how Ricciardo was, by the sounds of it, from what he said, pretty much confirmed to still be at McLaren for 2023. So clearly, McLaren weren't very straight with Ricciardo. And the report was, which I got into, I think a week or so ago, that McLaren told, or Andreas Seidel, the McLaren F1 team boss, told Daniel Ricciardo, I think during the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend, which was a couple weeks after that post that Ricciardo made, that he would be replaced by Piastri for 2023. It's just, it's such a shame, this situation, in terms of, like, why couldn't McLaren just be honest with Daniel? Why did they have to, you know, why did Zach Brown have to say what he said, allow Daniel to do what he did, and then tell him, oh no, we've signed Oscar for next year. And then it's now been revealed that, you know, Oscar Piastri signed that contract for 2020, for 2023 on July 4th, again, almost 10 days before Ricciardo made that Twitter post. I just don't understand why McLaren couldn't just be upfront and honest with them. Not very good luck, I have to say, from them. Because, I mean, even though Ricciardo hasn't performed enough for McLaren, that's clear to see, and McLaren, I think, are right in dropping him. They could have handled it with a little bit more class, I think, McLaren. So, yeah, not a great look there, and definitely if I was Ricciardo, I'd be a bit miffed at that, in terms of, as well, I was about to, you know, go on then, but I just remembered that Ricciardo also gave, I think, an impassioned speech at the McLaren HQ to the mechanics and engineers and all, where apparently he almost, or I think he did cry. again, a few days after Piastri signed this contract. So again, why couldn't McLaren just be upfront and honest with Ricciardo? That is just really shitty behaviour from McLaren. If you don't want a driver for next season and you signing up another driver, just tell the driver that you're replacing as soon as possible. I don't see the point in, you know, playing around with the driver, playing around with their emotions like that. That's just horrible, in my opinion. And anyone who does that is, for me, just not a good person. So yeah, really don't like what Andreas Seidel and Zach Brown have done there to Ricciardo. Again, Ricciardo hasn't performed. He deserves to be dropped, in my view. But you could have handled it in a much better way than that. But Oscar Piastri will be the man at Alpine. At McLaren, sorry, in 2023. And it will be interesting to see how he gets on at McLaren. For the first year, to be honest, I don't think we could put the expectation on him to really compete like Carlos Sainz did when he was at McLaren, at the same level of Lando Norris every race next season, or even beat Lando Norris. I just don't think we could put that expectation on him. Will he be a better driver than Lando Norris in his F1 career? Obviously, we'll have to see, but expectation-wise, as long as he is 2 to 3 tenths of a second closer, at least, on pace compared to Norris, compared to what Ricciardo has been like, say, this season and most of last season as well, then that should be good enough. And should see Piastri be a consistent point scorer for the McLaren team, as long as, of course, McLaren car is good enough. But yeah, that is the news with Piastri. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to, because I was thinking of maybe playing this tomorrow, because obviously in the build-up to qualifying, I am going to go over this topic again for people who haven't seen. I was thinking of playing this little clip of Piastri tomorrow, but I'm going to play it tonight instead. Just quickly, though, bear with me whilst I grab my headphones to plug into my PC so you guys can hear what Piastri had to say, as he did a video on Twitter talking about, he signed for McLaren. So let me just get my headphones quick and plug these in. And then, yeah, I'll get up the Twitter clip and play it just like we did with Ricciardo a couple weeks ago, playing, his what do you call it, announcement that he wouldn't be staying at McLaren from a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, let me just do that quick. And now I will just try and find this Piastri clip on Twitter. Shouldn't be too hard to find. I think it was the last thing he posted. Funnily enough, still has Alpine F1 reserve driver in his bio, which I think technically he still is, but he's not going to drive in a practice session this year for them, so it doesn't really make a difference. But anyway, let's get into Oscar Piastri and this clip on Twitter of him announcing that he will be at McLaren for 2023. Let me just check the sound. Is the sound going to work? Let me go. There you go, sorry. Me enabling the sound to work now. But yeah, let's play this and hear what he has to say.
Hi everyone, the news is finally out. I'll be joining the Formula One grid in 2023 with McLaren. I am super excited to be joining the grid and with such a prestigious team like McLaren. I have no doubt it's a great place to start my career. And yeah, it's been a long road up until this point. I've been racing for 12 years and this was my dream from the very beginning. So I just want to thank everybody who supported me throughout my journey, including my colleagues at Alpine for the past few years. And yes, also my family in particular who have made a significant contribution to supporting my career from the very beginning. And yeah, I can't wait to be representing Papaya. I'll be doing my best to drive as quickly as possible and get some good results. So looking forward to working with the team, working alongside Lando, and can't wait to see you all soon. Thank you.
So there you go. That's what he had to say, and that was posted a couple hours ago, I think it was. Yeah, good little message there from Oscar, and yeah, he'll be on the grid next year. Let me just unplug my headphones quick. One thing I did think, funnily enough, when he started speaking there, does anyone else think, and obviously you need to know who this person is if you're going to be able to understand what I'm going to say here, but does anyone else think he sounds like, was it Tiamat Mard UK, I think it is, or Tiamat Marduk? You know, Ben, the F1 YouTuber who does the F1 game. He sounds a bit like him, to be honest, when he speaks. But yeah, in all seriousness, it's good to see him on the grid. He deserves to be on the grid, quite clearly. He's one of the best F2 champions we've had in the last few years. And definitely, if you look at his F2 campaign, it was right up there, really, with what Russell did in 2018, what Leclerc did in 2017. So, yeah, he definitely deserves to be on the grid. There's no doubt about that. And hopefully, he will succeed in Formula 1. And as long as he doesn't get absolutely destroyed by Lando Norris and is properly competitive with him during his time at McLaren, then he should be fine. The only worry is that, again, if he was to get absolutely pounded by Norris next year and the year after, then there is a chance that could really hurt his confidence going, you know, into his future F1 career. If I was Piastri, though, if he does prove that he is of equal talent, if not better than Norris, which would be incredible over the 2 years that he races at McLaren, obviously could extend his contract past 2024, but let's just assume he's only going to stay there for the 2 years. Yeah, if he proves that he's of equal talent to Norris or better than Norris, then if I was Oscar, I would probably be looking to, do those 2 years and then move to another team to, you know, try and build a team around him. So, yeah. We'll see how that works with, what do you call it, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. But anyway, let's go back onto these pictures of the cars from earlier. And guys, let me know right now in the live chat, what have you thought of everything I'm about to say so far? And yeah, how do you think Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes and McLaren will get on tomorrow in qualifying? Give me your top 5 qualifying predictions for tomorrow. And try if you can and do it based on the pace we've seen so far in Friday practice. And just let me know in general how you think the teams are going to do tomorrow. And let me know what you thought or what you think of Oscar Piastri finally confirmed to be on the grid for 2023. Let me know in the live chat and I'll get to your comments now or in a moment actually. Just want to quickly say that if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, because tomorrow I will be live for qualifying day, obviously live for all of race day as well, but for qualifying day, I'll be live from 10:45 a.m. UK time all the way through till about probably 4 p.m. UK time. From 10:45 a.m. till 12 p.m. I'll be doing a watch along for practice 3. Then from 1 p.m. or from 12 p.m. till 2 p.m. I'll be doing build up to qualifying. Then 2 p.m. till 3 p.m. UK time will be the qualifying session itself, and I'll be doing a watch along for that session, of course. And then for about half an hour to an hour after the session finishes, I'll be reacting with you guys to what's happening qualifying. So if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for that, as of course we cover every qualifying and race thoroughly here on the channel. And for everyone watching right now, don't forget to smash the like button if you haven't already. But yeah, we're going to quickly get into some comments here. There's not an absolute ton, but I will get into as many as I can. Hello to Josiah and to G Walker and everyone else, by the way. Rookspot, of course, as well. Flexi floor rules are hurting Ferrari. Crying emoji. Well, we haven't seen any of that so far this weekend. Ferrari, to be honest, look as though hasn't really affected them that much because of the analysis I got into in my video about how Max destroyed Ferrari at Spa. The technical directive didn't really have any effect at Spa. Yeah, that's not really correct. Dingo says, even with pole position, Ferrari tyre degradation is going to hurt them and Mercs. Hamilton might overtake Ferrari for P2. Yeah. Even if, like you said, even if they get pole position, it's going to be a difficult race, really, for Ferrari to win. Because if it is a hot Grand Prix like it was last year, which I think, looking at the weather radar, it is going to be pretty warm at Zandvoort on Sunday. Maybe not as warm as it'll be tomorrow, but it'll still be pretty warm at the track. What do you call it? So, with the long corners we have here, and just the way the track is, that's definitely going to hurt the tyres quite a bit. We actually saw last year with Ferrari. Obviously, I know the cars last year were massively different, but I remember Carlos Sainz had quite bad tyre wear towards the end of his Grand Prix. So, yeah, definitely going to be an issue for Ferrari, even if they get pole position. Simon says, salute to all. Good to see you. Sparky Pete says, I'm so late at work. I've had a meeting. Going to like the video now and come back after FP2. I'm sure you deserve the like ahead of time. Well, I think you might have confused yourself a bit there because obviously practice 2 finished a few hours ago. But yeah, I mean, when you posted that, you weren't that late, to be honest. Simon says, late today. Yeah, I hear that Piastri is now certain to drive for McLaren in 2023. Yeah, he is now, thankfully, fully confirmed. Josiah says that McLaren ahead of Merc thing doesn't make any sense if Hamilton was only 700ths off and ahead of Norris. The reason, if I go back to it, it's because McLaren were quicker overall for each, well, not for each sector, but if you look at, so Sector 1, McLaren were quicker by a 10th almost. Sector 2, McLaren were quicker by, a 100th or so. And then, yeah, Sector 3, Mercedes were quicker, but I think McLaren just about for the entire lap, when you combine all of the ideal sectors, were quicker, which is why the ideal lap shows McLaren being quicker. G. Walker says, I do agree, Chazza. That was a beautiful picture of Ferrari. Great car, questionable support. Triban, could Leclerc win this race? Yeah. I mean, most of that is down to Ferrari being competent, which we know they are not. But yeah, Ferrari, I mean, they've got the pace to win this weekend, but again, it's just the way they are as a team. You just don't trust them to do anything well. I mean, they've had so many races this season where they probably should have won, have not been on the podium. Such as, Spain, Hungary, where, they should have won that race. I mean, they weren't on the podium with Leclerc, obviously. Yeah, Silverstone, even though Carlos Sainz won the race, but to be honest, they really, I think, screwed up what should have been a 1-2 at Silverstone. So, yeah. We'll see what happens with that. Chiller says, this is a track the Ferrari drivers can benefit on, but this can turn around tomorrow. If Red Bull gets their setup right or Mercedes joining the party, your thoughts, Chazza? I mean, yeah, Red Bull, like I said earlier, their car didn't look great on the exit of a few corners, especially the exit turn 3. It didn't look like as though it's handling as good as the Ferrari. That'll probably improve tomorrow. Obviously, the track will ramp up in terms of grip. Formula 2 is racing alongside F1 this weekend, so that'll help in terms of putting rubber down. But Red Bull will be a lot closer tomorrow, there's no doubt about it. But I think ultimately, I think Ferrari will have the best car here. This track just suits their car very well. Ferrari do go very well at a track that is tight, twisty, and just has lots of corners coming at you left, right, and centre. Like we've seen this season, Monaco, Barcelona, Paul Ricard, Hungary. I mean, Hungary, yeah, they didn't get pole, and yeah, they didn't win the race, but they had the best car that weekend, but they just bottled it so hard. So yeah, Ferrari looking very good here. Mercedes also joining the party. Yeah, it's possible. I just think ultimately in qualifying, they just won't have the pace of Red Bull and Ferrari. But if they can get one of their cars, say, in third on the grid, then I think they've got a very good chance there of winning the race, because we know their race pace is so much better than their qualifying pace. So as long as they get a good or decent qualifying result, doesn't have to be pole position, then they're in with a chance for sure of winning the Grand Prix this weekend. And yeah, if the temperatures are pretty hot as well, then that'll help them a lot. But let me see if there's any other comments. Gunship says Red Bull qualifying a race, win 1-2. Well, that'd be pretty surprising if that does happen, considering what we've seen so far this weekend. So yeah, I don't think that'll quite happen. But just quickly having a look on Twitter to see if there's any news. I did find something actually just a moment, and I've just accidentally gone past it. By the way, F2 and F3 have just announced they're going to be using sustainable fuels in 2023. Good to see. Where was it? Tammy or at Vettel Leclerc posted it. It's analysis from Automotor and Sport, who, again, as I mentioned before, such a great publication. According to them, the performance in Spa seems to be a slip-up. That's a quote from Bonotto. And then they say, at Zandvoort, Ferrari able to go low with the ride height and softer with the suspension again. And again, that's why they were so slow at Spa, because they had to raise the ride height of the car quite a bit because their car was struggling with the bounces in the Stavlo corners especially, but also at other parts of the track. And they also say Mercedes expected a better performance compared to Spa, but not to this extent. That's looking good for them. The bumps are less bad than expected. And Mercedes, quote, have said, we can go low with the ride height as much as it suits our car the best. At the minute, we're on par with Red Bull and Ferrari, according to them. Well, in qualifying terms, I don't think that'll quite be the case. But I think in the race, I think they'll be absolutely right on the money and right on terms with them. And then it also says Red Bull didn't find the right setup window in FP1. They focused too much on the hard tyres, which is not the right tyre for this track. Marco says that the team has enough data to find a setup solution, and that they expect a close fight with Ferrari and Mercedes, and of course themselves. So yeah, looking very competitive there. Dingo says Ferrari's pole position at Barcelona is just because of damage limitation from Max's car, DRS issue. I don't think Max would have got pole position anyway, to be honest, even if he had DRS working on that occasion, because let me just go and look quickly at the gap. So Charles Leclerc was, 0.3 of a second quicker in Q3 in the end. I mean, yeah, if Max had improved his final lap and had DRS, yeah, that would have helped him, but we don't know if Max would have improved his lap anyway. I mean, let's say he had DRS working. That doesn't mean he wouldn't have made, a mistake on that lap, or that he would have actually got pole position. And I think Leclerc would have got pole position anyway at the Spanish Grand Prix. And I think the proof that Ferrari had a better car there was seen in the race as well, where Leclerc was, 13 seconds clear of Verstappen in that race when Leclerc made his retirement. Can't pronounce your name, but I'll read out your comment. It says Red Bull is not ready yet. They need a different setup or something. Ferrari seems strong. Mercedes can be good only in qualifying. I think race pace is what counts in every race. I think Mercedes, I think they'll be, I wouldn't say good only in qualifying like you said, but I think they'll be at their best in the race. And again, as long as they can get a decent qualifying position, I think at worst, 4th and 5th would be a good result for them. So, yeah, we'll see how they do. Tomorrow, I think most likely they'll end up 4th and 5th. I don't think they'll be quite in the top 3. Can we expect a safety car in the race, asks Dingo. I mean, yeah, but I think most likely that it'd need like a first lap accident. I mean, we could have a safety car during the race, midway through the race or something, but because it's hard to overtake here, that means obviously contact between drivers is less likely, meaning safety cars less likely. And yeah. Gunship01 says Red Bull car is like side winder missile, very fast, great going around corners. And Ruxford asked, do we think Red Bull at the point of comfort where they are going to sandbag old Merc style? Well, yeah, to be honest. Because maybe they won't win this weekend. Maybe Ferrari will win this weekend. I mean, maybe I will be wrong. Because I still think Red Bull will win this Grand Prix this weekend. Because Ferrari are just absolute incompetent shit. But the championship's over. So Red Bull don't need to be going absolutely mental on a Friday. You know, pushing their car to the absolute limits in terms of engine power, the amount they use, the amount they're deploying with the battery, all of that stuff. They don't need to go that mental because, you know, the championship is over. They're going to win it in about 6 weeks' time. So there's no real reason to go overboard. So yeah, I don't think Red Bull really need to push that hard. Dingo says, remember when Max went into the gravel and recovered at Barcelona? I think Max was within 1 to 2 seconds. No, it was bigger than that. I think it was about 3 or 4 seconds. I mean, yeah, still close, but Leclerc and Ferrari were quicker. But what I'm going to get into, I'm going to get to 2 more things quickly before I get into the rest of the teams, before we come, of course, to the very end of this stream. There's plenty to get through, by the way, so don't go yet. One thing I want to get into is a little bit of drama between, again, an F1 driver and a Formula E driver. So let me, what do you call it? Hold on, I was just seeing something interesting here that's popped up on racefans.net. McLaren have criticised comments made over the signing of Oscar Piastri. He's talking about Alpine there, because Alpine accused, I think, Piastri and his agent Mark Webber of not having integrity, which was a bit much. But anyway, let's get on to what I was gonna get into. Yeah, there was a bit of a drama between Sebastian Vettel and Lucas Di Grassi, famed Twitter complainer, famed crybaby on Twitter. And yeah, let's get into this whole little bit of news. So Sebastian Vettel did a long interview with a German weekly newspaper called Zeit, I think it is. And he told them that why he wasn't interested in working with Formula E. And he said, quote, I don't want to be a mascot. I don't want to put my face forward for something that doesn't fully convince me. And then he said, I don't understand the meaning behind Formula E. The battery technology that is being used has nothing to do with the technology that a normal car could use. And then went on to say, it is not good for the environment if the batteries are charged not with renewable energy, but with fossil fuels. Let me just get up Vettel here on screen from what he did earlier. So yeah, basically saying that, not good for the environment if the batteries are charged not with renewable energy, but with fossil fuels. That analysis about it being charged with fossil fuels instead of renewable energy is not correct, by the way. That was an incorrect statement there by Sebastian Vettel. But I don't think he meant it maliciously. I don't think he was saying it in like a bad way just to slander Formula E for no good reason. I think maybe Formula E was doing that when they first got going in like 2015 or so, but they are not now, because I went and looked into it and they are no longer, or they're definitely not doing that with the way the batteries are charged up. And Lucas Di Grassi, who again, like I said, is quite famous for bitching and complaining on Twitter, had something to say about this, and it was quite funny what he had to say. Not in a good way from his point of view. So let me get up on screen quickly. And this was from yesterday. Yeah, it was from yesterday, about this time yesterday. So let me get it up on screen for you guys. So this is what Lucas Di Grassi had to say. He said, if Vettel don't want to come to Formula E, it is his choice. Although it is the second highest paid let me do that again. Although it is the second highest paid series single-seater in the world, obviously English is not his first language, That's why the words are in a bit of a different order than they should be. He says, still far away from the top F1 salary. Now, to say that the technology of the cars are less relevant to the future of automobiles, and then he goes on to say he's either has no idea of what he's talking about or is trying to mislead the general public on purpose. I think he's probably just not educated fully on the issue. I think that's most likely what he's doing here. I don't think he is deliberately misleading the public on purpose. He's not that type of guy, from what we've seen of Seb. And then he goes on to say, all that green stuff he has been doing lately, collecting trash, riding bicycles, etc., is completely greenwashing, not what he truly believes. And then goes on to say, so whatever he likes or not, the series, he should be supportive of it, that's all. This bottom bit of this tweet, the bottom paragraph, what Sebastian's been doing, collecting trash, riding bicycles. The reason, by the way, Sebastian rides a bicycle to the track is so that he doesn't have to use a car, to have less of a carbon footprint on the planet, which, personally for him is a good thing to do. He says is completely greenwashing and not what he truly believes. Firstly, how is greenwashing an insult? Shouldn't everyone be greenwashing, even if they don't believe in that stuff? Like, how is that supposed to be an insult? That's such a stupid insult, if that's what he was attempting, which I think he was. Again, such a stupid thing to say, and just has no effect whatsoever. It's a comical thing to say. And then, says not what he truly believes. Sebastian Vettel absolutely does believe in what he's doing when it comes to collecting trash, riding bicycles, and promoting a cleaner world. He absolutely does believe in this. He's been on BBC Question Time here in the UK talking about it. He's been protesting with different helmet designs about, fracking in certain countries. Sebastian Vettel absolutely believes in what he's doing. You cannot accuse him of that. So for Lucas to say this is just absolutely hilarious. And again, is greenwashing. Definitely wasn't the insult probably he thought it was. That again, everybody should be greenwashing. Just such a stupid thing there to say. And yeah, Lucas, again, shouldn't go on to that article. Not the smartest human being in the world. And not the best human being in the world, I guess you could say. And has, some interesting political beliefs. I'll leave it at that. When it comes to his own country, Brazil. And he supports some interesting politicians in his country. Again, I will leave it at that. But again, this is just such crybaby stuff that I saw that race fans reported on their website, and I had to go and see the tweet for myself again. Just such crybaby stuff that he said here. Let me just quickly though look at the replies to see what people are saying. Probably taking a piss out of him. I always wanted to ratio Lucas Di Grassi. And he did. Whoever that person is, yeah, he did. And then, yeah, people saying these things, as you can see here, which sums it up. But, yeah, there you go. That was that little drama. And, yeah, Lucas Di Grassi, that guy, honestly, is such a crybaby. All he does is, I've seen him do it on Twitter before. He tweets way too much, to be honest. He's had so many of these things in the past where he'll get into drama with people or be making comments that is just stupid. And yeah, just I've never met him before, but he doesn't come across as someone that I would probably get on with. Does Lucas Di Grassi? And should just concentrate on what he's doing in Formula E, because even though Sebastian Vettel, what he said wasn't correct, in terms of the battery charging thing. What do you call it? He wasn't trying to deliberately trash Formula E on purpose. So, yeah. Just, if he's uneducated on the issue, then, educate him. Don't accuse him of greenwashing and say that he doesn't actually believe in what he preaches, because that is an absolute load of bullshit. Derek 1978 says, so Vettel slams his series and you call him a crybaby and bring up his politics? What the fuck? The reason I call him a crybaby is because he resorted to petty insults, saying that he's completely greenwashing and he's doing something that he doesn't truly believe. That is petty as fuck. That is petty insults there from Lucas. And the reason I bring up his politics is because it does give us an insight into the type of person he is. I mean, obviously, you can support whoever you want in politics. I don't give a fuck, to be honest. But, let's not act like Lucas is the greatest human being in the world. Put it that way. But again, he can support whoever he wants. Doesn't really affect me. Derek also says, Vettel is not that type of guy. I'm sure Mark Webber would disagree with you. I mean, when it comes to Formula 1, that's completely different if that's what you're trying to talk about. So, yeah. I completely disagree with what you're saying there. Simon says Greta Vettel. Hello, by the way, to Warhawk in the chat. And then Simon, I'll go back to, I'll put these pictures back down the order like they should be. Simon says Alpine were happy to let Piastri wait only when Alonso left. Did Alpine try to promote him? Oscar had moved on by that time. And by the way, with this, with that Vettel and Degrassi thing that I just showed, again, just so everyone knows, Lucas Degrassi, I mean, he has the right to respond, obviously, and say he is wrong. And from what I've seen, because I did look into whether Vettel's claim was right, and by the looks of it, it was not correct. So, what Sebastian said was not correct factually, but Sebastian was not saying it from a bad faith point of view. All Lucas had to do was just respond saying, hey, Sebastian, you're incorrect. Here's why you're incorrect. You didn't have to resort to petty, childish insults, because that doesn't further, what he's trying to say. So, if you're going to educate someone or debate someone, whatever you call it, resorting to that stuff is never going to help your side. It's never going to help your side. All it'll do is make the other person think that they're right, even if they're wrong. So, just a very bad way of going about it. From Lucas, Eric says insults on what? Have you just? I'm guessing where you've just probably joined the stream, unless you just saw it then. Marco Catania says Lucas Degrassi, who had an F1 career consisting of no points in one season in the sport, having a go at Vettel, who probably doesn't even know who he is. Shake my head. Yeah, probably. I mean, let's not get into that because, I mean, anyone who drives an F1, except for a certain few drivers, they are, very, very good racing drivers to be able to get to Formula 1. And Lucas Degrassi did have I think a good junior Formula career. So he's not a bad driver, but yeah. Eric, who was he insulting for what? Just started watching the stream. I'll get it back up quickly for you, and then we'll move on for the rest of the stream. Let me just get it up again. It was Lucas Degrassi insulting Sebastian Vettel after Vettel made an incorrect claim about batteries charging using, I think, fossil fuels, I think it was. How do I get it up again? Here we go. So he said this, as you can see, and then when I say this, and the second bit of this tweet here is the insulting part, saying that he's greenwashing and it's not what he truly believes, which again is just such a stupid thing to say because, I mean, it's not even that big of an insult, but it's just such a childish thing to say, and also childish and so stupid to say that, Sebastian does not actually believe in what he preaches. But there you go. But yeah. Right, so let's get into the next thing that I want to get into in this stream as well. Hour and 20 minutes in. Let's get into what it takes to have a good lap here at Zandvoort. Don't worry, by the way, guys, I will get into the rest of the teams, but I just want to get into this quickly before we get into those teams. So here is the Zandvoort track. It's a very quick lap. It's only, a 1 minute 12, 1 minute 13 for what we've seen so far lap. It'll probably be, pole position will probably be in the 1 minute 10s almost tomorrow in qualifying if it is dry. So looking a lot quicker, the cars, or the gaps are a lot closer this weekend between the cars, I should say, compared to Spa, where of course the gaps are always quite big. And it is a pretty electrifying lap, I guess you could say, the Zandvoort track, with how just quickly the corners come at you. And let's get into an onboard lap to see, or for me to take you through the lap so I can tell you just what you need to do for a good lap around here. And here is Max Verstappen a couple of years ago at the Zandvoort track. I think this was at the start of 2020, maybe just before, as he comes now into turn 1, which is pretty much a hairpin, and you've got to make sure you get as close to that inside curb as possible, and then run as wide as possible on the exit curb there. Then into turn 2 you come, and yeah, just don't get on that entry curb as much as you can, and then carry as much speed through. And then through that corner, turn 3, he didn't go to the proper wide banked line, or wider line through that banked corner. But to get the best speed through that corner, you have to go as wide as possible for the best speed. Through that corner, it's pretty much almost a flat-out right-hander. Then into this corner, it's, again, very quick. And again, you've got to make sure you don't clip the inside curb. Then you come into this medium-speed corner. You've got to make sure the front end goes in there really to get a good, speed through there. Through this corner, just make sure you get, again, good front end into that corner and just don't lose the rear end too big on the exit. Then here's a DRS activation point as they come into these two slow corners. And obviously the front end important in those corners, but probably the most important part of those two slow corners is traction on exit. And then through this corner, just make sure pretty much you carry as much speed through that corner as possible. Then you come through the banked final turn where they've got DRS activated for this weekend. And then that is your lap here at Zandvoort. That's what it takes to have a good lap here at Zandvoort, and we'll see tomorrow whether it's wet or dry, or we'll see who has some great laps tomorrow at Zandvoort. But let's get into, finally, the rest of the teams, and we'll go on to Alpine. And yeah, Alpine weren't as quick as McLaren today, and we know that McLaren do tend to be at their absolute best over a single lap, so not really that much to panic about here, Alpine. They were 7th and 9th, I think they were in practice too. And yes, they were quite a bit slower than Norris, but even if Norris was to qualify in 7th at the head of the midfield pack, and then finish in 7th in the race on Sunday, if Alpine finish 8th and 9th, they still score the same amount of points as Norris, as long as Ricciardo obviously doesn't score a point in P10. So, it doesn't really have a massive effect on them if Norris, is able to be at the front of the midfield pack this weekend. So, as long as Alpine can qualify both cars into the top 10, which I think they will do, that'll be good enough. And yeah, the pace is looking about what I expected it to be. I didn't think they'd be as quick as McLaren, honestly, over a single lap, because this track definitely suits McLaren a bit more than Spa does for the Macca team. But yeah, as long as Alpine get both cars into the top 10, which is definitely, by the looks of it, going to happen, then they should be able to get a double points finish, because we know Alpine have pretty good race pace at the moment, especially compared to McLaren, and they should be able to convert that into a points finish, a decent points finish on Sunday to keep their gap at a healthy 20 points or so over the McLaren team. Next to Alfa Romeo, they have just completely fallen off. Luckily for them, there's no teams behind them that are really have any momentum right now, or really that quick of a car to catch them for 6th in the constructors. So yeah, no pace at the moment for Alfa Romeo, but they are still probably going to finish in 6th place in the constructors. So yeah, they'll probably end up tomorrow, I don't know, 13th, 14th, probably at best. But yeah, Alfa Romeo, I think the reason they've fallen off like this is because they haven't upgraded their car. Well, they brought an upgrade, a small upgrade to the Hungarian Grand Prix, which I think was a new floor design, but it was nothing massive. It was just a slight revision on what they already had. But they haven't brought a proper big upgrade since the Spanish Grand Prix, which was, 3.5 months ago? So that's why Alfa Romeo are nowhere near as quick as they were in the early part of 2022. Now we'll go on to Haas F1, who are looking better this weekend, but the only reason they're looking better is because Williams are looking worse, and obviously Williams worse here because it's a lot more aero, a lot more important here than straight line speed, which is why Williams ended up finishing in the points at Spa. So Haas still absolute shit at the minute. This upgrade just hasn't worked. And I think they're going to have to do what they did actually 3 years ago, I think back in 2019, where they upgraded their car. The car started getting worse, and they ended up reverting back to an older spec of car. I think they're maybe going to have to try that in improving the pace of their car, because since that upgrade came at the Hungarian Grand Prix, Haas have been literally nowhere on pace. So yeah, I think they're going to have to try that. But they're not going to finish in the points or be anywhere near the top 10 in qualifying either this weekend. So yeah. That's Haas. AlphaTauri actually looked pretty decent this weekend. I mean, in the midfield, obviously, it's always going to be McLaren for this year. McLaren and Alpine, the two top teams in that midfield fight. But AlphaTauri look as though they could be the next best team after those two top two midfield teams. AlphaTauri probably going to be very competitive with Aston Martin, I'd imagine, in qualifying. So not looking too bad for AlphaTauri, who of course had a pretty good Belgian Grand Prix. Pierre Gasly finishing 9th from the pit lane, and the pace of the car was pretty good last weekend. So yeah, not looking too bad for Gasly and AlphaTauri. And in practice too, Gasly wasn't doing too bad. Not great, but not too bad in terms of the pace from him. So yeah, watch out for Gasly. And as well, watch out especially for Gasly, because last year, even though the AlphaTauri car was a lot better last year, Pierre Gasly qualified 4th and finished 4th at this Grand Prix, so we know he can be very quick at Zandvoort. And now we'll go on to Aston Martin. Yeah, pace so far looking good. We know though they're going to drop back in qualifying by quite a bit, so I still think they'll probably have one car knocked out in Q1 and maybe sneak a car into Q2. It's a shame to say that, but that's just realistically where they're going to be, because that's what they've been like in the last few weekends. Strong in Friday practice, but then they drop off massively on a Saturday. The only other thing to say, really, is that Aston Martin have brought that armchair rear wing back that I talked about, the Hungarian Grand Prix. They've brought that back here. So we'll see if that helps them around this track. It didn't really help them that much around the Hungarian Grand Prix track. But, yeah, we'll see what that does for them this weekend at Zandvoort. And just quickly, let me just see if I can find it. I just want to quickly update you guys as to the upgrades for this weekend, because there were a couple that I wanted to get into. Let me just find it. I think Chris Medland's Twitter might have it. Here you go. So only 4 teams with updates this weekend. Alpine have a new beam wing and front wing. So Alpine front wing, that's probably a permanent upgrade. AlphaTauri have a new rear wing. Williams have a new front wing end plate, and Alfa Romeo a new rear corner. So we'll see how those updates do for them this weekend. And finally, the Williams team. And yeah, because they still lack a lot of downforce compared to the all of the other teams. That's why they are looking as though they're going to be the slowest team this weekend. If it does rain tomorrow, though, look out for Alex Albon, because I'm sure he could probably get into Q2. Even in the dry, to be honest, I think he's got a decent chance of getting into Q2. So, yeah. Looking not so good for Williams, but if you're a Williams fan, which I'd be surprised if there's anyone out there that is a Williams fan. But, yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah, this weekend's not going to be great, but next weekend is going to be a very good weekend for Williams because of their incredible straight line speed that they normally do have. But yeah, there you go. That is all of the teams in this qualifying preview. And that is, from what I can see, pretty much it for comments in the live chat. So I think, guys, because I've been live for an hour and a half now, I think I'll now bring this stream to an end. Thank you guys for coming along for this qualifying preview. Been great to have you as always. And again, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. I'll be live for all of qualifying day and all of race day as well. Qualifying day tomorrow, I'll be live at 10:45 a.m. UK time, all the way through till 4 p.m. UK time. From 10:45 a.m. till 12 p.m. I'm doing a watch along for practice 3. 12 till 2 p.m. build up to qualifying. 2 till 3 p.m. The watch along for qualifying, and then 3 till probably 4 p.m. at the latest, I'll be doing a reaction to what's happening qualifying itself. And then on Sunday, I'll be live from 12 p.m. all the way through till 5 p.m. at UK time. 12 till 1:30, we'll be doing the build up to the race, the race preview. 1:30 till 4 p.m. UK time will be the race watch along itself. The race starts at 2 p.m. UK time on Sunday. And then for about an hour after the race finishes, I'll be reacting with you guys to what's happened in the Dutch Grand Prix. So again, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. And for everyone watching, if you haven't still smashed the like button, don't forget to do so before the stream is over. And don't forget as well to share this video and channel everywhere you can. And as well, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5 and join my Discord server, link below in the description, guys. But until tomorrow, qualifying day for the Dutch Grand Prix, it has been me, ChazHD. Goodbye.